agenda for post-pandemic recovery. The world is not just complex, growth is slower, capital is more costly. This, plus the health and equality of our people to eradicate poverty. This is the ASEAN agenda.
Okay, thank you, Simon. I think this is a nice segue to what I would like to ask Ibu Armida, yeah? Because when you're talking about the rise of ASEAN and reshaping the global order, it's not just about geopolitics, geostrategy, it's also about geoeconomics. And you know, Indonesia's chairmanship says ASEAN matters, epicenter of growth. Is it really the case? Is this aspirational? Or is this really something that is already based on fact? And how do you see, you know, the performance, the achievement of ASEAN to date?
Yes, thank you very much, Ibu Dewi. If I may, I would like to start a little bit backtrack, yeah, from what ASEAN initiated in terms of the economic pillar as well as the socio-culture pillar, right? Because ASEAN, when it was established, initially is more on the political security front, and then started with the economic pillar with trade and investment as the core. But then, of course, as the development challenges also widen, including for the ASEAN countries, so therefore ASEAN embarked on the social culture pillar. Therefore, also the development agenda came in, right? And as we now see, again, yeah, there are also the emerging development issues, not only the long-standing issues, let's say, on poverty, inequality, food security, and so on, yeah? But now we see these emerging development challenges, which is cross-cutting, cross-border, and so on, yeah? Which is, if I can mention two, climate change. One is the most important, I think, globally, as well as regional and nationally, as well as digital, just to name two, yeah? So therefore, yeah, what we expect to see from ASEAN, because now I'm speaking not so much from the Indonesian standpoint of view, yeah? Now I'm with UN, ESCAP, so I'm looking at a more wider view from the Asia Pacific perspective. So therefore, what we expect from ASEAN is actually to continue to focus on the most important, most urgent issues, including to support the global agenda. That's one. For example, again, the climate change, digital, and so on. And second, also what we expect from ASEAN is to continue its leadership on this particular issue. Leadership meaning including, yeah, how also ASEAN can contribute to solutions, so solution-oriented. And third, also what we expect from ASEAN more and more, also ASEAN could leverage and could also work, yeah, with the rest, let's say from Asia Pacific point of view, with the rest of Asia. So I understand this ASEAN outlook on Indo-Pacific, for example, yeah, that is also one of that the rest of the region also is looking forward to.
Yeah, I think we'll talk more about the ASEAN outlook on Indo-Pacific, where on the 5th, on the 6th, I think that is the inaugural ASEAN Indo-Pacific Forum to flesh out the four pillars of IOP. Now, I'd like to go more to the more contentious issues, the challenges that are facing ASEAN. I understand that tomorrow there's also a panel on geopolitics, but I don't think we can avoid talking about geopolitics, where the rise of China and China's behavior in the region, particularly with the new map, which claims the entirety of the South China Sea besides other areas. Then the US-China rivalry and the mention about, you know, the issue of Myanmar, domestic problems, not just Myanmar, but we have an interesting issue in Thailand also. You know, all of our countries, we don't all have very healthy politics. Yeah, there are some good friends. I've just read an article in Nikkei by Michael Vatikotis. I'm not sure whether he made the caption. It calls ASEAN coming quietly apart at the seams, you know. and ASEAN on life support, because internally, ASEAN is faced by Myanmar. Externally, the geopolitical rivalry where, will probably force ASEAN to choose side. And then, this dysfunctions in a number of, even of ASEAN's older states. And the fact that ASEAN has not really achieved real traction among the people. That ASEAN is still very thin, very elitist, and so on. So I'd like you to go slightly, on this, whatever take you like. Pak Marty, which one would you like to see? What are the most pressing challenges now that will really threaten the existence of ASEAN?
Well, before such a learned and august forum, it is not for me to describe things that I think most of us in this room would be extremely familiar with already in terms of the challenges and opportunities before us, the geopolitical push and pull, the internal implosion or challenges that some ASEAN member states are facing. But I think a forum of this type would be more useful if we reflect on how then should ASEAN respond to these developments rather than us simply describing them. And I think it's extremely important to recognize that obituaries on ASEAN actually have been written many times over in past decades and past years. But somehow, all those times, ASEAN have been able to reinvent itself and reassert its relevance. I feel today we are at one of those junctures, that we are a moment where we need to step back, reflect, and think about what are the next series of steps that we must try to introduce. Given the limitation of time, I'll just take one example, for instance, the geopolitical push and pull. By the way, this is not just US-China. There is India and China. In Northeast Asia, you have a new trilateral now. It's no longer the traditional +3, which we are more familiar with, namely China, Japan, and Korea. But now there is a trilateral that is involving United States as well. The point being, given this push and pull, how can ASEAN manifest its relevance, its centrality? I am of the view that if we simply say we don't want to choose, that we are neutral, there is a guarantee of ASEAN's irrelevance. And we are seeing it already. We are seeing the initiation of processes that circumvent ASEAN. AUKUS, Quad, BRICS, the trilateral that I had mentioned. I believe, Ibu, those who are going to meet in the next couple of days here, the leaders, they really must think how you can earn their centrality. And in my humble and honest view, one contribution that ASEAN can make is the notion of promoting strategic stability. How, notwithstanding the push and pull between the geopolitical rivals, ASEAN can say, this does not need to lead to open conflict. There is an alternative script. The notion of promoting crisis response capacity, the notion of developing trust. These are the things that I feel ASEAN can try to positively infect beyond our region. And by the way, we have been doing that in the past. When we externalize the TAC, the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation, so that it applies beyond ASEAN, it is a way for us to positively affect the rest of the region. When we speak of the Indo-Pacific, that was the same idea. The Code of Conduct for the South China Sea, again. But I'm now, please correct me if I'm wrong now, I hope I am wrong, I am seeing a little bit of like a wait and see. We are in the driving seat, but we are not driving anywhere. We need to think about this carefully, thoughtfully, and more of the same, business as usual, in my view, may not suffice in a world of fast-changing developments.
Okay. Richard, I'd like you to jump into this. Driving seat, not anywhere, and it's not going anywhere, and you cannot really afford to sit on the fence and that kind of things. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, actually, I mean, just to back up Michael, I had a piece also on Nikkei this week saying how ASEAN is kind of missing in action when it comes to South China Sea. Of course, coming from the Philippines, this is the primordial issue for us, and this is where I think, to be honest, there's a lot of frustration that goes both sides. I think some in ASEAN may have misperceptions that the Philippines is kind of the deputy sheriff of United States in ASEAN, in the same way that Mahathir used to dismiss Australia in the region.
Is the Philippines checking out
No,
of ASEAN?
absolutely not. I think what we're seeing in the region is a kind of a 50 shades of multi-alignment, multi-vectoring, whatever you want to call it. I don't think President Marcos Jr. wants to fully align with United States against China, just like much of ASEAN. He wants to keep things on an even keel with China as much as possible. But I completely agree with Pak Marty that not making a choice is a choice in itself, except it's increasingly a luxury that more and more of us cannot afford. And I think President Marcos Jr. tried his best. In fact, his first state visit was to China. He tried to get something, whether on the BRI front, on the South China Sea front. He was not really getting much out of it, and I think that increasingly pushed him towards traditional alliances. And now we have all these conversations about enhanced defense cooperation agreement. Now, speaking of ASEAN and how ASEAN can be relevant to us, I mean, whenever I speak about ASEAN, it's kind of a, you know, we call it cariño brutal. You know, it comes from a place of love when I criticize ASEAN. I don't think I share a lot of my compatriots' skepticism or cynicism towards ASEAN. But my sense is, in ASEAN, we have forgotten how we have been effective. So if you look at the AFTA CEPT, we were effective because it's ASEAN minus X. If you look at how ASEAN played a decisive role during the East Timor transition, or played a very decisive role in pushing post-conflict Cambodia towards a more pluralistic regime in the 1990s, it was much more mini-lateral than multilateral, as the Thai foreign minister back in the day said. I mean, essentially the Frank Sinatra way, right? Each of us will go our way, and those who converge will work it together. And my sense is, in fact, if you look at how we operationalize consensus, it's not really muafarat. I mean, for those who understand Arabic, muafarat is closer to how European Union operationalized consensus. What we have really is unanimity-based decision-making, which is never going to work on things that are inherently very divisive. And I cannot blame our friends in Cambodia, for instance, not risking all their relationship with China for the sake of the Philippines, or I don't know, some countries here in the South China Sea. So I think naturally mini-lateralism is the way forward. And guess what? When multilateralism doesn't work, mini-lateralism can step in and fill in the gaps. And I know this is controversial, and some people think there's a zero-sum relationship, but the reality is that the bitterness is going to grow if ASEAN continues to be missing in action on an issue that is primordial to countries like the Philippines.
Okay. Simon, do you want to add something on this?
Yes.
Including commenting about, the multilateralism, it's a building block within ASEAN.
I think multilateralism is always there. And you said it earlier, Dewi, about Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia. On the Philippines and South China Sea, I think Richard and the Marcos presidency is correct. There are things that ASEAN can do, can try to do, but at some essential point, they are former allies of the Americans, and there's nothing wrong with them relying on that if that's what they want to do. So I think this goes back to that wisdom. I mean, sometimes we use the word so frequently we forget it. There is a need for unity, but to recognize that diversity. Marty and the keynote speakers, all of this is said. Now, what does it mean when you apply to a difficult issue of the South China Sea? So I think that I agree that we are in a meeting at a very important time. There must be a certain intentionality, thinking through what ASEAN needs to do, and there must be speed. But when you put the two together, there cannot be rash action. We must look for a certain wisdom and timeliness to maintain certain fundamentals like the trust. Now, when we say we can't just keep saying, make no choice, I think that's the fundamental. We make no choice permanently, then we have to build something on top of that. I think Pak Marty and I agree in the sense that we don't have to just say neutrality, but we must have a positive agenda. Secondly, we need to create trust, and trust within ASEAN by understanding how we work together on some issues. Now, I think that one of the challenges will be economic. And where we are is strategic and economic coming together. After all, the Sino-American tensions, the tensions and differences with China play out also in the economic field. And this will be something very positive if ASEAN can be better integrated. So I know this panel is less on economics than strategic, but I want to point to the connections. More than ever, we need to think about bringing foreign direct investment, whether from the West or from ourselves or from China and other Asian partners, across ASEAN, not just to any one country, but across ASEAN, to really anchor that down. I think that will be a big test for us. I do want to come in on climate change, which Ibu mentioned, but I think I'm taking too much time, Dewi. So if I can come back to that, I think that's a very important test case for us with El Nino coming up.
Yeah. Now, I'd like to ask Kavi first, because Pak Martin mentioned, that it cannot be business as usual, how to remain relevant, but in the past, we have to say that I've studied ASEAN. I always think that ASEAN is an organization that thrives on crisis. If things go well, we go to sleep. ASEAN countries just go inward and do not pay attention to the region. But during the crisis, that's when they reinvent themselves. But is the geopolitical reality now, and also the increasing difficulties, the diversity of ASEAN, is it very different from the past where we grew stronger after each crisis? Now there are a lot of ASEAN skeptics. What about you, Kafi?
Well, thank you, Ibu. I think ASEAN now is more outward-looking, outreach to all major powers. That helps explain why ASEAN can survive in this kind of environment. I like to build on also on Pak Marty mentioning that we have to stand firm. ASEAN is a kind of organization that does not practice the so-called cancel culture. We support both sides. We don't choose sides. We take advantage, benefit from all sides. This is what ASEAN is all about. And I think ASEAN is doing very well in engaging. As you can see last year, Indonesia engaged with everyone as part of the ASEAN member, and this year as well. And I think Pak Marty should be proud that he started out all this Indo-Pacific discussion. And he mentioned Treaty of Amity and Cooperation. I would be another person who would go beyond that. I think the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation would expand to cover the Indo-Pacific in the future, because most of the country accede to the Treaty of Amity and support principle and the 5 practices contained in the TAC. And I think that is very important. Moreover, one of the main characters that ASEAN, I mentioned earlier, said that ASEAN is weak. I mean, ASEAN is weak in the sense that we pose no threat to anyone. People come here to ASEAN for consultation, they feel good, they can talk to each other. And I think the most important is ASEAN must maintain this. Try to convince all that engage with us that we are vulnerable, we are asset. Keep ASEAN as it is. Don't push us, don't divide us. Let ASEAN be the bridge for all to cross and gather. That would be my takes.
Yeah. Now I'd like to come back to Ibu Armida. Kafi mentioned about ASEAN becoming more outward-looking, so ASEAN centrality is really related more, if you look at the ASEAN Charter, about how to manage relations with external powers. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about strengthening ASEAN community, we have to look inward, and how to make ASEAN really matters to the people of ASEAN themselves. At the moment, surveys by the ASEAN Foundation, for example, show that we are not there yet. Ibu Armida, how would you suggest that ASEAN should pay more attention to developing real ASEAN community?
Yes, thank you very much for that question. So again, the relevance of ASEAN certainly centers of as long as it gives benefits to the member states of ASEAN. I think that is first and foremost. So therefore, in terms, again, I'm going to look at more from the development angle, the development challenges and opportunities angle. So in that context, within ASEAN, across the ASEAN member state, what are the development issues, development challenges? That's one. Again, I already mentioned that earlier, in which, again, there is a sort of transformation of the agenda to be broader and to also to include the emerging development issues. That's number one. Number two, within ASEAN, including across the ASEAN countries, there are this, again, some colleagues call it diversity, but certainly there are these different development stages across the ASEAN member states. So therefore, how across or within ASEAN itself, there are, I would say it, how to strengthen, how to reduce these development gaps. What I understand, when this social culture pillar was first initiated, that was one of the primary objectives. So the question now is, has ASEAN achieved on that objective, to reduce the development gaps across the ASEAN member states? And third is, again, to have this relevance, how also for ASEAN to, aside from also take these emerging development challenges, also to mainstream, again, the resilience, the inclusivity, and the sustainability within all this development agenda. Why is important? Because let's take resilience. Now, as we embark from the COVID-19, and many countries are recovering, right? So the issue is how to better prepare for the countries for the next crisis. Crisis, not only economic crisis, but now increasingly coming also from the non-economic risks, including pandemic and so on and so forth. This elevated risk, that's number one. And also, so how to better prepare, and also how for the ASEAN countries to benefit from this, at the same time, solution, to offer solution for these emerging development challenges, the climate action, as well as at the same time also this digital transformation. So if we can, or I mean, not we, but I mean for ASEAN member states, ASEAN community, to leverage this opportunity at the same time also as a solution.
Thank you. Now, I'd like to go to Simon now. We have focused a lot about, how ASEAN should engage with the outside world, with, the strategic autonomy, the strategic agency, multi-alignments, much more pragmatic about our relations, not taking side, not be trapped in the rivalry and so on. Now, I like to go to the other side. How should outsiders really engage with ASEAN? ASEAN pays a lot of attention to who comes to our party, and we bear grudges sometimes. We do not forget, who miss a party, particularly when it comes to the big powers. Remember when Condoleezza Rice failed to turn up at the ASEAN Regional Forum? ASEAN never forgets it. And now we understand that the US President Biden is not coming to the East Asia Summit. President Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, never attends the East Asia Summit, always attends a sense of Prime Minister. What's your take on this?
Well, I guess it's always the precedent, not precedent, but precedent. When Thailand chaired ASEAN, despite being a former ally of America, they suffered the indignity of having neither president nor vice president. Not just Thailand as the host, but ASEAN. So I think the Americans have, for a long time, sent a signal of uncertainty in terms of engaging ASEAN. Of course, they say it, ASEAN centrality, but they are the ones starting every kind of other device besides really engaging ASEAN. So it's just in a kind of a repeated exclusion. Whereas, as you said about China, they've been relatively consistent. And I think in many ways, if a new cabinet, the President Xi is of course in charge, it's very good to engage the new premier and understand China more broadly as much as possible. If I could, while I'm still on the microphone, pick up on where Ibu was about the domestic issue. I think we're coming to the complexity where the outside in is combining. The outside view of ASEAN must be backed up with an internal view. The strategic and the economic come together. And this is where I want to echo what you said about the post-pandemic. It's not just the health issue. This is critical. There will be another pandemic of some kind. Numbers are already going up. But there's a budget issue. Most of us have spent too much money. We can't afford to do it the same way. There is an education and equality issue. Many children have lost years of education during the pandemic. And if we are to move up the value chain, become productive, really give better jobs to people, these are critical for the ASEAN's own agenda, mattering to our people. I think will make ASEAN more cohesive, stronger. And another issue which picked up from climate, if I may, and again, this will be important engaging other people in the world. We are facing a global phenomenon of the El Nino. This will have a play across many countries. We see it already. In our region, we will feel the heat, not just in the cities, but we will feel the heat perhaps from return of fires. Many of you know I've been pushing on this issue. I want to credit President of the Indonesian government for showing great leadership. But this leadership, the institutions we have built, will be tested in the coming months. Let's hope we go through this test strongly together. And not just the haze, the inflation from rising food prices, especially rice, which, if you look at the ASEAN symbol, those are rice stocks. We really have the long-term, the global issues. We need a global voice. But the short-term tests, the post-pandemic and the El Nino phenomena, will, I think, be something to watch for in the coming months.
Yeah, thank you. Although our forum, I'm happy to see that IR experts are very fluent now, talking about all the other non-IR, non-geopolitical challenges. But I'd like to come back, to Kavi. We know why we should engage with the outside world. Why should the outside world bother with ASEAN? Why should China, the US, all these countries pay, their due to ASEAN?
Can you give me 3 days to explain why people come to ASEAN? They come to ASEAN because ASEAN is safe. ASEAN is no enemy, pose no threat. And they come here, they can exchange view. This is why the world leaders, when they were invited, they would come. Except America, because America, of course, is the major power. And, Biden didn't come at its own perils. And I think America have to think hard. I agree with Simon and Richard, America need to really get serious with ASEAN more than just verbal support. ASEAN moving into forwarding direction. When you talk about ASEAN centrality, it's very interesting. ASEAN centrality start out with ASEAN set the agenda. Number 2, ASEAN said you cannot conduct ASEAN meeting elsewhere except ASEAN capital. And then ASEAN only assigned topic. And now suddenly ASEAN said, we can engage outsider, you can raise the issue of your concern. And now ASEAN goes a step further. We initiated AOIP. That is ASEAN centrality. A lot of people did not understand the evolution of ASEAN centrality. ASEAN is moving forward slowly. Of course, people talk about Myanmar crisis. They want us to solve the very complex Burmese quagmire, like you push the button in the like or dislike in social media. Cannot. It takes time. When ASEAN commit to a cause, not like United States, we cannot step back. We cannot backsliding. We are ASEAN. We commit and we move ahead. And Pak Mati must know well. We decide on something, we move ahead and settle it. It took almost 13 years from Cambodia conflicts and other issues. We still move on with Rohingya, with other issues. We try to speed it up with post-pandemic economic recovery. And now we set the future course engagement with the uncertainty of geopolitical alignment with AOIP and this today maybe it start out with infrastructure, with digital transformation, which is very important for the future world. So we are preparing, but ASEAN is ASEAN, we cannot brag about it too much. And outsider need to appreciate more. We, as we are today, I would like to quote Dr. Surin Pissuwan, former ASEAN Secretary General. Today, ASEAN is one less problem for the world. Thank you.
So, because as we know in the UN also, they regard the regional arrangement as the first step towards global peace, as an early warning system, and so on. I'm not going to put Dr. Marty on the spot and ask him to be undiplomatic. Should Indonesia feel slighted that President Biden is not coming here, but you can just say yes or no.
No, it shouldn't.
Shouldn't, okay, right. Not make too much of an issue of it, yeah? Now, we've only got about 3 minutes each. We are, this is an ASEAN Business Council meeting, so the business people want to be reassured, that ASEAN will really be there all the time despite all the criticisms and so on. So I'll give each of you less than 1 minute each to say in a positive note and also how to strengthen ASEAN. Less than 1 minute each. I'll start with Richard.
Okay. For me, we always say ASEAN does things its own way, their ASEAN way, etc. But I think just the physics of globalization, just the physics of decision making is going to force us at one point to decide whether we want to remain in this kind of a loose regional body or move towards greater supranational organization. And I think all of the issues being raised and the double whammy of artificial intelligence and fourth industrial revolution, which is going to, by some studies, going to displace up to 70 million jobs from Cambodia to Philippines and Indonesia based on an ILO study, to climate change, where we have a number of ASEAN countries tremendously affected by climate change, especially Philippines, Indonesia, among others. I don't think we can deal with these issues if we are as loose as we are. I mean, there's a purpose for being loose when you're still not a mature organization, but 10, 20, 30 years down the road, as climate change and artificial intelligence reaches the next level, we have to make those tough decisions. But there's also opportunity. We are seeing the China Plus phenomenon, more companies moving to not only Vietnam, but also Indonesia, Philippines, among others. There's also concern about too much of semiconductor industry concentrated in Taiwan, and then the competition from India. So I think that provides some opportunity for ASEAN to step it up in terms of harmonizing our investment and business strategies. We were supposed to have the ASEAN Economic Community in 2015. It's already 2023. So we have to move on that front. But I think there is the motivation, there is the sense of urgency, and there is the resources for that.
Okay, Simon, 30 seconds.
30 seconds, okay. Singapore is the hub, one hub from which investment and trade flows. We feel that pulse. We want to remind people that while far from perfect, ASEAN is outperforming global norms. We are growing as fast, if not faster, than China for the first time since the 1990s. We have each our own challenges, but combined, there are a number of strengths to pull in that China plus one supply chain. A lot will depend on internal reform. Governments have changing, but the critical business issue is productivity, education, better quality jobs, moving up the value chain. I believe that ASEAN can do this. There's some fundamentals already in the ASEAN Economic Community, removing non-tariff measures, taking care of services. There are opportunities in digital and green transformations and transitions. I think that ASEAN business will play a critical part, and I'm delighted to see that you have put a serious paper about future paths for ASEAN forward. I think the think tank community, the business community, and the governments must work together.
Okay, Ibu Armida.
Yes, I would like to refer to this year's theme, which is ASEAN Matters Epicentrum of Growth. Yes, but the question is what kind of growth? So therefore, I would like to reiterate my point earlier, which the growth, economic growth, which has to be resilient, inclusive, and sustainable. Resilience to future economic and non-economic risk or shock. Inclusive, especially to strengthen the equality, including across the ASEAN countries. And third, lastly, is sustainability, meaning towards a green economy. Thank you.
Okay. Our time is up, but I don't want to miss out Pak Marty and Kavi. So 20 seconds each.
Well, one thing I think ASEAN has not done yet, that is the handover to younger generation. I hope next year there will be younger speaker. That is important. Young generation from ASEAN should appreciate more of what ASEAN is doing for them, but most of them don't understand that this opportunity that they enjoy come from ASEAN solidarity and hard work of over 5 decades, you know. And I'm part of the dinosaur which should disappear soon. Thank you.
Final words, Pak Marty.
Terima kasih, Bu. Just two key thoughts, if I may. First, ASEAN has mattered, most definitely and certainly, but to remain to matter, more of the same will not be good enough. We must work harder to earn our relevance and to earn our place in nationally as well as regionally and globally as well. And the second point is that geopolitics matter. We are here amidst business leaders. One may question to what extent geopolitical developments affect the way that they run their businesses. But I believe that nowadays, with how all-pervasive is the impact of geopolitical competition, then businesses must promote their businesses in a way that is resilient to geopolitical shocks and tensions, and therefore, through processes such as ASEAN Business Council, to channel their concern to their governments to ensure that the interests of governments and the peoples of ASEAN and businesses can go hand in hand. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that is a wonderful summary of what ASEAN is all about, the rise of ASEAN and the reshaping of global order, if not global, at least the reshaping of our immediate region, where ASEAN will hopefully continue to be to play a central role, but it has to be earned, and we need to continue to reinvent ourselves. But I think that I'm always very optimistic. ASEAN thrives on crisis. If there is no crisis, ASEAN tends to take things for granted and go to sleep. So, but I think that there is a consensus that ASEAN needs to be much more decisive. It needs to become a much more cohesive and more integrated regional organization, short of supranational entity. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our session. I'm sorry I've taken slightly more of your time. Please give a warm applause to all of our panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for the moderator and also panelists. Now we invite the moderator and panelists to take a photo session together. We invite the moderator and all the panelists to have a photo session. All right. What a very insightful session from all the panelists. At the first plenary session. Thank you so much. Once again, please give a round of applause for the moderator and also all the panelists. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the plenary session 1 has explored the future of Southeast Asia in the Asian century and how ASEAN will chart the future of the region. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now we will move to the next session with the title of ASEAN Matters, Resilience and Stability in Fractious Global Economy. With the world in a state of flux and also geopolitical tensions on the rise, stability and security have become invaluable assets in the global economy. And with the region at a crucial stage in its economic development, this panel will highlight ASEAN's stability, security, an evolving role as the epicenter of growth. We promised that the second plenary session will be as insightful as the first plenary session. So we hope that all of you can enjoy the second plenary session, which are going to start soon. All right, once again, we are going to start to the next session with the title of ASEAN Matters, Resilience and Stability in Fractious Global Economy. To begin this second plenary session, we hope that all of you please kindly be seated as we are going to start the second plenary session soon. So as we mentioned before that the plenary session 1 has already explored about the future of Southeast Asia in the Asian region, Asian century, and how ASEAN will chart the future of the region. So, at the next session, with the title of ASEAN Matters, we are going to discuss ASEAN Matters, Resilience and Stability in Fractious Global Economy. With the world in a state of flux and also geopolitical tensions on the rise, stability and security have become invaluable assets in the global economy. So, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to His Excellency Professor Dr. Budiono. Also, a very warm welcome to His Excellency Sandiaga Uno. To begin this second plenary session, it is with immense pleasure that we introduce our keynote speaker, whose profound insight and experiences have earned them a prominent position at the forefront of this discussion. The former Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia is here to share this insight with us. Please welcome His Excellency Professor Dr. Budiono. The stage is yours.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning to you all. Let me first express my great pleasure to speak in this gathering of top government and business leaders from this region and beyond. Let me also congratulate the ASEAN Business Advisory Council and KADIN for organizing this important international event. I understand that this session will discuss what ASEAN should do to enhance its global role, as well as a more focused topic on how the business sector could contribute toward building resilience and maintaining stability in the region. Some of the answers to those questions will come, I guess not so much from me in this opening remark, as from the lineup of distinguished and knowledgeable speakers that will share their views during the rest of the session. I will use my time to make some general remarks. Let me begin by recognizing that ASEAN has come a long way from its birth 58 years ago. Started as mainly a forum for maintaining regional peace, it has now grown to be an association of nations with many faceted and deep cooperation in the fields of security, politics, economics, and social matters. Yet, the world continues to evolve. We are currently witnessing in the theaters of geopolitics and geoeconomics significant developments not seen in many decades, and all of which will have far-reaching implications for the world, this region, and individual states in it. ASEAN collectively and its member states individually must respond. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm a believer in the value of having friends. It is very pleasing in good times, but most useful in difficult times. We take it as a basic tenet of the association, ASEAN, that member countries are fully sovereign entities. It is therefore proper and legitimate for each of them to respond to the problems it faces according to the calculus of its national priority and interest. On the other hand, the raison d'etre of an association is the existence of a common belief among its members that in some circumstances, joint actions and common positioning are necessary. I think we are now in one of such circumstances. It is not time for members countries of ASEAN to consider investing enough time, and better quite early on in the game, to explore the possibilities of the group's joint responses to the looming challenges. One such area is how ASEAN should define its position vis-à-vis the great powers. This is a delicate issue and requires dialogues at the highest levels to establish rapport among members. My own view, if I may, is that ASEAN as a group should not fall into the trap of partisanship. Instead, it should opt for some form of independent position that would give it a chance to contribute to global reconciliation and peace, and at the same time, provides enough room of maneuvers to enhance its supposed primary goal, namely to safeguard the region's peace, security, and prosperity. That would not be an easy game, but I think it is doable. And if ASEAN could project itself as a solid group, I believe it would command sufficient leverage in the game. A good start would be for the association and its members to invest more efforts to find solution or moderation to its outstanding internal problems, including some sensitive political issues that originate from some sort of discord between members. Additionally, it would also be helpful to identify protocols that have been agreed to, but lagging in their implementation, and then agree to do something about it. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me now turn to the question of what the business community could contribute to support ASEAN's role. There are obviously many things that business community could do so, directly or indirectly. To list and analyze them all would be beyond me. Instead, let me focus on one strategic issue that I believe will determine the region's global position in the long term. Namely, the quest for raising the standards of governance in both its private and public territories. The textbook dichotomy between the private sector and the public sector, with the former doing all the economic activities guided mainly by profit and private motives, while the public sector sets the rules to safeguard public interests, does not, and in fact never does, represent the reality. In the real world, the two are intertwined. The realm of politics provides the common grounds where the twain meet, where their actors mingle, and where their motives and actions interact with each other. As a result, for better or worse, the standards of governance as actually practiced in the two sectors are the end products of the political processes that actually transpire. The corollary is that efforts to nurture good governance in the private sector would only succeed if there are corresponding efforts to support them in the public sector. The converse is also true. Efforts to stem out bad governance in the private sector, for instance, business practices that result in ecological disasters, will fail if there are no corresponding efforts to root out bad governance in the public sector, such as corruption, and vice versa. That is why, in my view, it is very important for business leaders and government leaders to have genuine discussions on how to coordinate their efforts to raise the standards of governance at every level where they operate: the local society, the country, and the region. It is a fact that at the regional level, the standards of governance among member countries differ. Some are objectively more advanced than the others. But I think we should view them as an opportunity rather than a problem. The more advanced members could share their experience and expertise with the others. A working committee could be established for that. Ladies and gentlemen, do all this sound too optimistic? Maybe. But I can't help being an optimist when we come to think of the great potential this region and its ASEAN have. It is all up to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Professor Dr. Budiono. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we still have another remark. We are privileged to have a message from the President and Chair of the Global Green Growth Institute and the 8th Secretary General of the United Nations. Though he couldn't be with us in person, his words carry immense significance. So let us direct our attention to the screens as we are going to present to you a video message from His Excellency Ban Ki-moon.
Your Excellency Budiono, former Vice President of the Republic of Indonesia, distinguished panelists and guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, selamat pagi. Allow me to first express my appreciation to the ASEAN Business Advisory Council for the kind invitation to address the esteemed audience ahead of the panel discussions and the many sessions. Although I cannot join you in person at this important event, the ASEAN Business and Investment Summit 2023, I am very pleased to say a few words by video. As you may know, the Paris Climate Change Agreement and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals are often cited as the two most important achievements of my tenure as the Secretary General of the United Nations. Both required tremendous planning, negotiations, and work to make them into a reality, and it was envisioned that both would have crucial role to play for the private sector and businesses. The diverse economies of ASEAN countries offer great potential for achieving carbon neutrality, and I was very pleased to see ASEAN economic ministers endorse a carbon neutrality strategy aligned with the Paris Climate Change Agreement. Following my retirement from the United Nations, I have been continuing to do my part by serving as the President of the Assembly and Chair of the Council of the Global Green Growth Institute, GGGI, a treaty-based intergovernmental organization with a goal to accelerate the global transition to green growth on environmentally sustainable and socially inclusive growth. GGGI helps its 46 member states work towards achieving 14 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, including powering past coal and getting to net zero. Examples include renewable energy transition, such as the rooftop solar generation in the Philippines, and nature-based solutions in forests, mangroves, and peatlands, such as the one in Indonesia. At this year's summit, GGGI experts will participate in the Climate Forum on net zero and green investment discussions, and I encourage you to engage them and discuss how your company or organization can collaborate and build a better future. Because although GGGI works primarily with the governments of the member states, businesses understand that green growth presents vast opportunities. Think about the growth in renewable energy sources, improvements in energy efficiency, developments in green infrastructure, electrification of transportation, climate-resilient agriculture, and much more. The companies that saw the potential early and acted strategically and decisively have gained a significant head start. This is why GGGI has been supporting governments to create for their respective private sectors enabling policies and regulatory frameworks so private and financial markets can invest and to encourage technological innovation through research and development. And government exists for the people, and it needs to provide social protection measures to those who lose their jobs during green transitions, the right education and training for green jobs, and support systems for inclusive capacity strengthening. The ASEAN regional bloc holds significant political and economic influence, and its core principles of multilateralism and cooperation are exemplary. And ASEAN also has a diverse population with abundant resources, and it is a global hub for both manufacturing and consumption. In other words, it has all the ingredients to have an immense impact on the world if its businesses work collaboratively with its governments to pursue sustainable development. As you reflect on these ideas and think about ASEAN's role in the global economy and its legacy for the decades to come, I hope the significance of sustainability and social inclusiveness becomes very clear. They resonate with the principles of green growth, and they shed light on our shared commitment to safeguarding our one and only planet and fostering prosperity for all of its inhabitants. I hope you will join me on the path towards a more sustainable and better future for all. I wish all of you a very safe and successful summit. Thank you. Terima kasih.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Ban Ki-moon. Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now we will continue our plenary session on ASEAN matters, resilience and stability in a fractious global economy. This session will be led by our moderator. She is a CEO, young politician, and also prominent public figure. Please welcome Ms. Rahayu Saraswati.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It is my absolute honor and privilege to be here this morning to be moderating this session, and because I know time is of the essence, I will get straight to it, and I will be inviting our very prominent speakers and panelists this morning. We have His Excellency Sandiaga Uno, Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy of the Republic of Indonesia. And we also have Mr. Kunihiko Hirabayashi, Chairman of ASEAN and Japan Center. Next, we have the Honorable Roger Cook, Premier of Western Australia. And next we have, of course, last but not least, Dr. Piti Srisangnam, Executive Director of ASEAN Foundation. What an amazing lineup, and as you can see, each and every single one of them have their own style of greeting, apparently. So hopefully, even though we'll be talking about something quite serious, it won't be too stiff. We'll make it as entertaining as possible for all of you. And I will open this with the subject matter as a reminder for all who are here that we are here on the subject of ASEAN matters, resilience and stability in a fractious global economy. Ooh, quite heavy. With the world in a state of flux and geopolitical tensions on the rise, stability and security have become invaluable assets in the global economy. With the region at a crucial stage in its economic development, this panel, in case it's not clear yet, will highlight ASEAN's stability, security, and evolving role as the epicenter of growth. Now, we have quite a few questions to get through. It's not from me, so let's just be clear. Don't blame me for these questions. But I have it on good authority that you have all received some of these questions, so hopefully we'll get through them, because with 4 distinguished panelists, these questions can be quite a lot to get through. So I do ask all of you to be as succinct and as thorough at the same time as possible. And so we'll get started. We'll go with the first question, and I think this way we'll do it a little bit differently. We'll have our panelists from ASEAN answering first and then continuing with those from the non-ASEAN. We'll put it that way. So it'll be very interesting. We'll start first with His Excellency Sandiaga Uno, and I don't know why they put you so far away from me. I've missed our talks. But I would love to hear your view on how do you see the strength of ASEAN as the regional group contributing to regional development and enhancing its role in the global community. And if I may, I think the next question actually links to that as well. So again, how do you see the strength of ASEAN as the regional group contributing to regional development and enhancing its role in the global community? Link that to how should ASEAN position themselves towards key global partners, both in economic and geopolitical terms? I know that's quite a lot. Please remind me, I mean, you can always ask, you know.
This is so way higher than my pay grade. And I think Pa Arshad did this deliberately, that we sit so far apart. And,
Arshad, is that true?
But thank you for inviting me. And Rahayu is, I call her Sarah, is the favorite niece of my former boss, Pak Prabowo. And
so he's the one introducing me now.
yes.
Doing it the other way around.
Because everybody needs context, right? So if I appear to be intimidated, it's I think Pa Arshad is doing a great job at it. It is, I think, one of the positive things, and I quote Pak Bud, our Vice President of Indonesia from 2009 to 2014, we need to work within our strength. And the resilience, at least one of the, a lot of discussions will be on the size of populations, the stability of the country, and the growth of the economy. But I think if you look at the top 50 most beautiful sites in the world, and this is voted by global travel and tourism industries, is actually here in ASEAN. And we have Bali, we have Bangkok and Phuket in the Philippines, Cebu, ranked very, very high. So this type of very long questions from a minister that is in charge of healing and refreshing is sort of like too long of a questions. But I think ASEAN needs to go back to its strength, which is the beauty of the nature, the strength of its culture, and the peaceful of its people. And I think this is something that have not been played very, very strongly. We're not putting enough attention on our strength. On your second questions, I was reading that ASEAN needs to maintain its neutrality. I agree when it comes to our stance of global issues in terms of the geopolitics issues. But when it comes to economy, and because I come from Kadin as well in the past, I'm a businessman and I'm an entrepreneur in my DNA. I was forced by your uncle into politics, and that's why I sit here. Otherwise, I'll be sitting beside Pa Arshad, helping Pa Arshad. Is that we need to not to be in neutral in economy, in business. We're a powerhouse. We should be in full throttle. We should take, I would say, nobody drives manual anymore. But if you're on a gear, you should be in a full gear because opportunities are here in ASEAN region. With the region growing and because of the electric vehicle that Indonesia is focusing, that we could work within ASEAN and also Australia with your lithium strength. This is something that we need to be paying more attention, and we should not be doing business as usual. We should not be neutral on our economic strength. We should really go on full throttle. So maybe I would end my remarks there, and I look forward for questions from the audience. And what should we do as ASEAN matters epicenter of growth?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I'll go straight to, he doesn't want to be called Dr. PT because he says, I'm not a doctor. So PT, please go ahead. The time is yours.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Selamat pagi and sawadee krap. I think when we talk about this topic, the resilience, stabilities in the fractious global economies, right now the world, we can characterize the world by rapid changes, economic uncertainties, geopolitical complexities. But of course, our ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, stands as a beacon of unities, resilience, and stabilities. And ladies and gentlemen, I can confirm you that this is not the first time that ASEAN go through this kind of fractious global economies. I also agree with His Excellency Minister that everything comes with a context, right? So I used to be the university professor for more than 20 years. Hence, let me give you a background of what we're going through for the past 50-something years. So this is not the first time that ASEAN facing the fractious global challenges. Over half a century ago, ladies and gentlemen, during the Cold War, the US and Soviet Union wield the power and influence to the political ideologies. Similarity to current situations, but of course back in 1964, during the Gulf of Tonkin crisis, where the US was about to enter the American-Vietnam War, posed a threat to Thailand and Southeast Asia due to its proximities. Thailand foreign policy leaders at that time, Dr. Thanat Khawman, considers we, small country in Southeast Asia, has only three options. First, non-alignments, neutralities. Second, bandwagoning with or aligning with superpower. And third option at that time is flexible bamboo diplomacy. Thailand seems to be famous with this bamboo thing. But however, a creative policy emerged, leading to the fourth options. Thailand at that time mediating conflicts between Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines to establish peace in the regions. And this positioned Thailand as a leader and led to the creations of the ASEAN back in 1967. And these regional integrations earn more and more bargaining power. And since then, we see a lot of developments of Southeast Asian nations that go through these fragile geopolitical conflicts. For example, again, in 1975, when the US is about to exit the Vietnam War, we host ASEAN Summit, right? The first one in Bali, in Indonesia, set up the treaties of amities and cooperations as the rules of the games for Southeast Asia. Of course, when the Cold War ends and we are entering into the globalizations, ASEAN formed its first FTA among ourselves, so-called ASEAN Free Trade Agreements. So we know how to make money together. But of course, with the too fast growing, with the bubble economies, we faced this 1997 Asian financial crisis. So we changed from political challenges, political threats to economic threats. And right now we shake our hand against, but not only among 10 ASEAN countries, but we enlarge our cooperations to include +3, China, Japan, and Korea. And we form the economic cooperation such as AMRO, ASEAN +3 Macroeconomic Research Office. We form the so-called Chiang Mai initiatives, multilateralism. So we have our own mechanism in order to fight against the economic turmoils. And of course, right now, in the middle of the crisis again, geopolitical conflict against, in the year 2019, Indonesia and Thailand worked very, very hard in order to release the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific. And that's the very, very important document that set the rules of the game in Southeast Asia to ensure the ASEAN centralities. I think this is the strong point. This is the thing that when we work hard together, we can ensure the stabilities and resilience in our economies, in our geopolitical landscapes. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And now we'll go into from the outside looking in. We'll start with the Honorable Mr. Roger Cook, if you may. Time is yours.
Thank you very much, and let me acknowledge all our distinguished guests here today, Your Excellency. ASEAN represents such an important opportunity, not only for our regional economies, but for the globe. We understand that the core principles of ASEAN, the multilateralism, neutrality and cooperation, represented a significant opportunity for its partners and its neighbours to integrate and to strengthen all our economies. In Western Australia, we consider ourselves Australian with a particularly Asian theme. We see huge opportunities to continue to engage with ASEAN economies as we strengthen our economy, but also strengthen the resilience and the economies of the Indo and Asian Pacific regions. And we know that strong economic relationships lead to sophisticated and deep political and cultural relationships. And that's why ASEAN represents such an important opportunity, having so many of our dynamic economies of our region within its membership. And the multiplicity of that membership means that you can continue to build the resilience through the complexity of its membership. And we know that we live now in one of the most crucial moments in the globe's history, and that is how we deal with the global warming and the impact of climate change on all our economies, particularly those who are least fortunate amongst our communities. So I'd like to echo the thoughts of His Excellency when we say now is the time that economic and trade relationships provide an important catalyst for resolving many of the other issues that we all confront, whether it's geopolitical challenges or economic challenges. The economic relationships and the deepness of those are incredibly important. I want to share with you one of our experiences in our engagement with the great Indonesian investment and trade opportunities. Our good friends at Kadin are assisting us to continue to integrate Western Australia into the supply chains of the critical minerals pathways that we see as going forward. Western Australia has every element of a lithium-ion and vanadium-ion battery within our jurisdiction. So we see the opportunity to integrate ourselves in the global supply chains of a green energy future as being a key opportunity for us, not only to build our economic relationships, but to build our deep social and cultural alignment as well. So net zero can be a catalyst for all these things, not only continuing to build our great investment opportunities, but through those economic relationships, build the resilience around the ASEAN region and our region more generally. Western Australia, we don't want to be friends, we are partners, we are neighbours. And that's the importance of ASEAN and the way that it can bring these, the multiplicity of the various economies of the region together. And just to re-emphasise, strong economic relationships lead to sophisticated and deep political and cultural relationships.
Fantastic, amazing. Thank you so much. And now we'll go to Kunihiko Hibayashi-san, who prefers to be called Chris. Don't ask. So we'll go with Chris, the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Excellency. And I'm very pleased to be here. Why I'm called myself Chris is long history. Don't ask me, but because I want to be with you. And the value of ASEAN, other than resources, economic opportunity, but I really want to refer the people. Any resilience, stability exists, and the foundation is people. And I want to summarize strengths ASEAN people in 3 C. One is confidence among people in many areas: politics, economics, academics. I was hosted in Indonesia 1997, 1998, 30 years ago. It's a very difficult time, but they always protect me, even in a very difficult time. And after 30 years, I see more confidence among the people to do so without any asking reward. The second C, coexist. Even such a diverse community, they respect others and definitely coexist. That is foundation for future global needed. The third one, cooperation. Even in a difficult time in a COVID and the world economic situation, they collaborate, try to find a solution. This is a real foundation of resilience and stability. So I really admire the people of ASEAN, and personally, I push Japan to be member of ASEAN. That is very much, I'm promoting in very way. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. I think we've already heard how it's very similar what the four of you have mentioned. It's almost looking at, first, I think His Excellency Sandiaga Uno mentioned looking within, first of all, looking at our strengths, which I think, PT, you also, mentioned about how we need to look, well, historically, that this is not the first time, and that we've managed to actually rise from within, looking at what are our strengths. And I think that was also mentioned about how we have the confidence that we can coexist with the diversity within each of our own countries, and that we can cooperate with each other. And of course, His Excellency Mr. Cook mentioned how with strong economic relationships, that will lead to sophisticated geopolitical relationships. And those are strengths. I think we've looked at very positive aspects. Now, again, these questions are not from me, but I think, we need to look at the other side of the coin, which is perhaps, we can say it's our weakness, but it's also the reality. So I would like to ask, first of all, these questions mainly for Chris and His Excellency Mr. Cook. What are the main issues that dissuade potential economic and political partners from engaging with ASEAN? And what can be done to address them? We'll go with that first. So, Mr. Chris.
Okay, thank you very much. But there are several but very critical issues that exist. For instance, geopolitical tensions in this region. Definitely this can make some business and political actors hesitating to engage with ASEAN. But in order to address this, my suggestion, I do believe ASEAN can be and should be strong advocate for multilateralism, as you mentioned. ASEAN with a commitment to multilateralism can promote cooperation, coexist, and confidence beyond ASEAN. This 3C is a mantra for addressing geopolitical tension. ASEAN can be really champion of this multilateralism. And also, diversity is a strength, but disparity is a weakness. So ASEAN should address any disparity among the region, within the region, and also across the sectors, across the generation. Particularly young people can play a significant role to reduce this disparity because they are also motivating to address social, economical, geopolitical issues. But the other one, from my previous background as a heart surgeon, heart-to-heart connection should be human rights based. Some businesses and some area has criticized for their human rights record, but this can definitely dissuade countries preventing from their engagement. So ASEAN and non-ASEAN actors like Japan can work together, not confrontational point, but more discussing and also providing, sharing experiences and capacity building. So this is also so many opportunity engage between people, and I'm definitely ASEAN can address those difficult points for other non-ASEAN peoples. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. And I think, Mr. Cook, do you agree with what he said, or do you have any other opinions on the matter?
Well, one of our key aims in Western Australia is to diversify our industries and diversify our markets. And the barriers to doing that come from a range of different areas. Obviously, strong government support for economic and investment relationships is very important. And certainly the economic cooperation agreements that get struck from time to time are an important indicator, an important direction for investments and for engagement. ISEPA is a great opportunity, for instance, for Australian companies to engage with the Indonesian economy. But one of the key barriers to that, I think, is cultural and economic literacy. And we need to do more, certainly in our region, to understand the importance of the way we engage and how we engage. For instance, to this summit, I've brought over 100 different political and business leaders from Western Australia as part of our ongoing efforts to engage more deeply with investment and trade partners right across the ASEAN region. And we understand, and I don't think we've previously appreciated, the importance of coming back time and time again to build those relationships, because the familiarity around those relationships, I think, is what drives confidence to then move forward to transactions. This is my third visit to Indonesia since May last year, as part of an understanding and an appreciation that we need to continue to come back and engage more and more to make sure that we can build that confidence to then move forward to transactions. And I think we all understand that, and I think we appreciated this most deeply during COVID, is that if you lose that opportunity to engage in face-to-face conversations and build those relationships, that ultimately represents a barrier to strong investment and economic pathways. Many people in Indonesia come to Australia to study, and many people in Australia travel to Asian destinations to study as well. I think those cultural links are an important aspect of it as well. So we need to continue to recommit ourselves to those cultural ties in order to build those economic and trade ties.
Thank you so much. I would like just to, because you mentioned about education, Mr. Cook, it happened to be a couple of weeks ago I was in Australia, as I mentioned to you earlier. And one of the concerns was that the interest of learning the ASEAN languages was going significantly down in comparison to maybe a few years ago. They did mention that perhaps it's less of a support from our countries to put into those programs in Australia, but do you have any thoughts as to why that might be?
I certainly think that during COVID, so let's just say from 2020 onwards, there has been a significant introversion that's taken place. But we all understand the importance of language as a learning tool, but also as a cultural understanding tool. My very good friend, the Minister for Energy from Western Australia, who's accompanied me, Minister Johnson, is a student of Bahasa, and came and lived in Indonesia for a period of time with a family, and has strong cultural and friendships as a result of that deep engagement. So we need to continue to raise the gaze of our young people towards a broader horizon, and I think we've perhaps tended to look more towards the transactions as opposed to the relationships to strengthen these partnerships.
Thank you very much. That's very interesting. And I would like to go to His Excellency, Mr. Sandiaga Uno. From your experience as minister, especially because he mentioned cultural relations, what has been the main issues that you've heard from people outside of ASEAN as the main issue that would prevent them from, it's not just visiting, but actually investing or having a relationship with ASEAN partners, if you may?
First of all, before I answer that questions, the outcome of that survey that less and less Australians wants to learn about Indonesian language could be attributable to Google Translate. Because Indonesian language is so easy to understand, and you could use technology. So that part of data, some of the scientists here may not agree with me, is thanks to technology. But also I want to check this room so we have audience participations. Chris said that ASEAN should join, Japan should join ASEAN. Who would be agreeable? Raise your hands. So about 25%, I'm so sorry. You lost in the first round. I think I have not seen primary reasons why people don't want to invest in ASEAN, but some of the issues from the past have been on infrastructures, But Indonesia has been building a lot of infrastructure, and so is Thailand. I think Singapore has a world-class, if not the best infrastructure in the whole world. I think the Philippines is putting green economy also. But I would say ASEAN interconnectivity. And for instance, we have not integrated our economy up to the optimal, whereby I think we need to work harder to collaborate. From my area on tourism, for instance, basically people who visited Bangkok, because post-COVID, it's more personalized, localized, and smaller in size tourism, and people stay longer in destinations, we should offer a package that they could extend their stays to Bali or to Cebu. But we have not really done it. And during ASEAN Tourism Forum, we are launching this concept of ASEAN as a single destinations. That's just one primary example. On creative economy, in the film industry, for instance, we have not really worked closer. You, Sarah, understand this well. We have the best of horror movies. Indonesia's horror movies is so very scary, guys. And each islands of our 17,000 have their own ghosts. And they're dressed differently and equally very, very frightening. But we, in Thailand, maybe the drama is more advanced. I think we need to work together in areas such as creative economy, culinary, as well as fashion, some really green economy. We need to work harder on green economy. We mentioned to Roger, and by the way, green has nothing to do with the new party, the color of my new party. You will not, and thank you for campaigning for us in the past 2 elections, Sarah. Hopefully we could work together again in the future. But this is our democracy, Indonesia's brand of democracy.
I'll put that down, shall I?
Pak Arsyad is master on this. You know, it's a brand new Indonesian democracy whereby you compete, but then you collaborate. Correct? But he said it's bertanding, berunding, and then bersanding. So in Bahasa, it's you compete, you negotiate, and then you collaborate. It's a brand new democracy. And I think Indonesia should export it to the rest of ASEAN as well. But green economy, we need to work hard because we have some issues, there are some solutions. This interconnectedness within ASEAN needs to work hard. And finally, last but not least, is digital. I think the young people of ASEAN is a young demography, and digital have taken such a huge role. There are good points in the gaming industry. For instance, we work already with the ASEAN countries, but we need to work harder to integrate and to interconnect our economies.
Fantastic. And I know time is running out, so PT, I'm so sorry. I'm going to get to, yes, I know you can do it.
Yes, I will. I'll try.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Same question.
Yeah, actually, this is the very, very important. I totally agree with all the panelists that socio-economics and social-cultural issues, it's the thing. ASEAN, you know, the best point of ASEAN is our biodiversities and diversities in terms of ethnic, in terms of cultural, in terms of history. But of course, in order to strengthen it, actually, you know, ASEAN has a secret weapons. Okay. And these secret weapons called ASEAN Foundations, actually my organizations. We were there since 1997. but not much people knows about us, the ASEAN Foundations. Actually, ASEAN Foundation was established with the 3 mandates. These 3 mandates are to raise the ASEAN awareness, strengthen ASEAN identities, ASEAN way, and build a sustained and prosperous ASEAN communities. So we transform these 3 mandates into 6 thematic area of works. The first one, we're talking about community building and people-to-people networks. We serve ASEAN youth, we serve ASEAN, the underserved communities. We arrange the activities that mingle, that gather ASEAN and our dialogue partners for doing something that, make fun together. And then the second one, we're talking about education, reskill, upskill, and scholar networks. We also work on the third area of media and media engagements. For the past 6 months, we engage with more than 35.6 million engagements over the social media. And on the fourth area, this is also very, very important. We work very, very hard on environmental issues, sustainable developments. Then the fifth one, we talk about the one that we will be happy together. We work on the issues of arts and culturals. And the last but not the least, the sixth area, it's about business community engagements, especially focus on how to empower our micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. So this is the way we try to strengthen ourselves from the socio-economic and socio-cultural aspects.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. I will give, well, hopefully, I would like to give, so Panitia, if you have an issue, you can tell me off later. But I would like to give a chance for each and every single one of you to also, as a closing statement, also mention a little bit about the geopolitical rifts happening around the world and how ASEAN, because we've talked a lot about the economic strengths and how, yes, that will lead into a stronger geopolitical relations. But perhaps knowing that in ASEAN, especially even in Thailand, we're seeing the youths are rising up. In Indonesia, 53% of our population are the Gen Zs and Gen Millennials. And I think after the pandemic, they've woken up and basically realized, oh, everything that's happening around the world will affect us, right? So I think it would be fantastic for, especially perhaps you can put this into, as the youths, as the target audience at the moment, for your closing statements as what can ASEAN do in light of the geopolitical rifts and the economical instability perhaps that is happening at the moment. I'll start with the Honorable Roger Cook. Sir, if you may, and then we'll go with PT because you've been going at the end so far. So we'll go here, and then I'll go next to Chris, and then we'll end with Mr. Santiago. No, please.
I think the message to our young people is allow the digital economy to build a global community, and make sure that you use those opportunities to engage is not an opportunity to descend into isolation and populism, but an opportunity to grow your communities to be part of a global population. It's by those connections that we understand how we are all connected, and whether it be through the environment or through political relationships.
That's fantastic, digital economy, which we haven't really spoken about. PT.
I think the most important right now for these, conflicts in terms of geopolitical economies, the concept of the concept of ASEAN centralities is very, very important. How we 10 ASEAN countries ensure that we are put on the driver's seats, not only in terms of geopolitics, but of course in terms of economics, in terms of socio-cultural as well. We need to have the open-minded. We have to look outward-looking internationalizations. Apart from internationalizations, I think digitalization is also very important. And last but not the least, green mindset. This is the three things that we need the most right now to ensure the ASEAN centralities: internationalization, digitalizations, and green mindset.
Fantastic. And Chris?
Thank you very much. Accepting the majority I cannot get, Japan being ASEAN, but definitely ASEAN can be a very strong positioning, being a conduit for Indo-Pacific strategy. And ASEAN can... Coming back, never give up, can be a pivotal role in shaping the various Indo-Pacific strategy. So many countries now has an Indo-Pacific strategy, but AOIP focusing, emphasizing cooperation, not confrontation, focusing on inclusion, not exclusion, and the strengthening connection, but not division. So with ensuring rule-based order for a free, open, and inclusive region. This AOIP, a strong instrument to make ASEAN can be a very strong partner in this region. Thank you.
We're hearing ASEAN centrality, Indo-Pacific with conversation, inclusion, connection. And now I'd like to hear, last but not least, Your Excellency.
In the current geopolitics and fractious global economy, I think world leaders, business, and global executives, as well as world leaders, presidents, prime ministers, should take holidays in ASEAN. In particular, Bali. Because I witnessed when, during the G20, I was asked by President Jokowi to greet President Biden, and then later on President Xi. Everybody was very nervous, but it must be the air of Bali or the gamelan or the magical situations. They had their first summit, and it was very, very successful. So I think the leaders of the world should take more vacations in ASEAN and take care of their mental health. It's very important. It's also thank you. And also for some of this, we also have our K-drama in Indonesia now. People say K-drama is Korean drama, but here K is koalisi drama. For our, so take vacations. Help my KPI. I have a very high KPI and I have a very demanding boss. You meet my boss later, Pak Jokowi. But thank you very much for inviting me, Pak Arsyad, Pak Dino, Pak Bud, mohon maaf. Pak Marty, thank you very much. And such a pleasure. And hopefully we have a great, successful ASEAN Summit.
And that is why he is the Minister of the Creative Economy and Tourism, because apparently the answer to the geopolitical rifts is for everyone to take a vacation in Bali. I don't know if you all agree with that, but I think that's a really great concluding statement. So, ladies and gentlemen, to our panelists, thank you so much.
All right, thank you to the moderator and all the respectable panelists. Thank you so much for the insightful and also entertaining session. Please give them a round of applause once again, ladies and gentlemen. And please to have a photo session. A very interesting lineup. I would like also to invite His Excellency Professor Dr. Budiono to join the photo session together. Following Mr. Arsyad and also Mr. Dino. All right. The formal pose first. All right. And we do the ASEAN way pose. Make sure you hold the hands tightly and give the best smile. All right. Fantastic, thank you so much. Let's give them a round of big applause. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, What a wonderful plenary session we have. Thank you so much. Thank you, His Excellency Professor Dr. Budiono, for joining us together. Thank you to all panelists and also our wonderful moderator, Ms. Rahayu Saraswati. And as the Minister of Tourism and Economy Creative of our Republic Indonesia, His Excellency Sandiaga Uno said that don't forget to spend your holiday in ASEAN and take care of your mental health. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to inform you some important information. The next session is a policy session, which will be divided into 3 stages as follows. So there are going to be 3 stages in the next session. The stage 1 is on the center stage. We are going to have the policy session with the topic ASEAN's digital powerhouse at the nexus of connectivity and transformation. And then we are going to have the stage 2, which is the left stage. We are going to have the policy session with the topic decarbonizing Southeast Asia, charting ASEAN's pathway to a net zero future. And stage 3, which is the right side, the right stage, we are going to have the policy session with the topic Rise to Resilience, Nurturing Health in the ASEAN Community. So you can choose which stage and which topic you are going to join. But before that, of course, we are going to have lunch. So as we conclude the invigorating discussions of this morning's session at the ASEAN Business and Investment Summit 2023, it's time to take a brief pause and nourish ourselves. I'm pleased to announce that we're going to have a well-deserved lunch break. So during this time, you are invited to explore the refreshment and also the meals that we have been prepared for you at the Sri Wedari Garden. So now we are entering the lunch break and we are inviting you to join the lunch break at the Sri Wedari Garden area. So once again, the lunch break is going to held at the Sri Wedari Garden. Please note that we will reconvene promptly after the lunch break for the afternoon session, which promises to be equally enlightening and of course engaging. I encourage you to return to this hall promptly at 1 p.m. local time so that we can continue our journey of exploration and collaboration. Make sure you are entering the right stage. Once again, the stage 1 is on the center stage where I'm standing right now. We're going to have the policy session with the topic ASEAN's digital powerhouse at the nexus of connectivity and transformation. And then stage 2, which is the left stage, we're going to have the policy session with the topic decarbonizing Southeast Asia, charting ASEAN's pathway to net zero future. And stage 3, which is the right stage, we are going to have the policy session with the topic Rise to Resilience, Nurturing Health in the ASEAN Community. So you can choose one of them at 1 p.m. local time. Thank you for your active participation. Enjoy your lunch and we'll see you back here again at 1 p.m. local time. Enjoy.